Hello, and welcome to another episode of How We Move the Decimal. And in this episode, I and my husband are both photographing items for eBay. And I'm going to apologize now. It is absolutely downpouring rain outside, so you might hear rain in the background. Maybe it'll be soothing, but it is just downpouring. And we're supposed to have some wicked thunderstorms, maybe some tornado issues this afternoon. So, yay! Welcome to the spring in the Midwest. And it was 40 degrees on Monday and 28 degrees when I was watching my kids play soccer. So it was so cold. Um, I'm still going through the estate sale lot. I'm looking more of the toppers. I started to photograph this topper and then I found a lot more rust stains. In my previous video, I talked how they weren't stored properly. And no offense to this guy's wife, but maybe I'm going out on a limb here and I'm going to be total petty and judgmental. Maybe quilt toppers wasn't her thing. She seemed to be very quick. It wasn't very detailed work. It was almost slapdash together, which I kind of understand. I don't do much needlework at all. If I do anything, I cross stitch. And that's about it. I don't have the patience, I don't have the talent to crochet or to knit or even to sew that much. I did pick up sewing when the pandemic started. I can sew a pillowcase. Oh, we're doing a family poppet time in the picture. My 4-year-old brought poppets to all of us and wanted us to use the poppets. I'm going on a tangent a little bit on the poppets. I never understood the fidget spinners, absolutely never got the appeal of fidget spinners. However, poppets, I understand the appeal of poppets. They're way more amusing than fidget spinners are. But back to this, the guy's wife, who was obviously the seamstress or whatever, she just didn't have the patience or talent. I don't know. Several of the projects she started weren't great. I even have a couple like quilt pieces that if people wanted to sew together, they can make a quilt topper. Unfortunately, half of them are cut wonky or sideways, or the stitching is not great. She did hand stitch all of this. Nothing was machine stitched. Everything was hand stitched. And when you're looking at eBay to sell things on eBay, by far, hand stitched quilts sell for more. So if you can find a hand stitched quilt, you're more likely to sell it for money than machine stitched, because just machine stitched is more readily available. Hand stitched takes more time. It's usually more intricate in, you know what I mean. It's usually more delicate, but she, bless her heart, this was not her forte. And I can kind of tell by that because there were several of these started and not finished. Several quilts were started, several quilt toppers were started, none of them were finished. Maybe she just didn't find her thing. Right around this time, I'm realizing I can't sell the quilt topper because it is damaged. But I can sell the embroidery flosses and the sewing string because it's vintage. And one of the new things we're seeing with individuals now, like crafters now, and I think the pandemic may have like brought this on, and it may have maybe bolstered it because we were all bored and we were finding craft supplies in our house. But one of the things I'm seeing is people are buying vintage strings, vintage fabrics, and recreating vintage items. So even though it's not technically the exact vintage item, it is made out of vintage materials. So they're doing it that way. And I guess it's kind of a niche market, which is really cool. And like I said, it's easier for me to come across vintage items, vintage unique items, than it is for me to come across new high-end brand name stuff where I am. I just went to my first estate sale since 2020 happened. This past weekend, I just ran inside and did a really quick look. I don't like going on the first days. I'm not going to stand in line. I'm not one of those people that gets there at 5 in the morning and stands in line. One, it's way too competitive. Prices are way too high on the first day. I prefer to go on the last day and towards the end of the last day when things are 75% off, at least 50% off. Or if I could buy like whole rooms, like I will give you $50 for all the clothes in this room, or like I did with the slides, I'll give you $10 for all of these slides. So more like I'm going to do this before you, so you don't have to throw it away, or you're at least going to get some profit off of that. But I went into this estate sale this past weekend, and they did have old craft supplies. I'm assuming they probably had better, and it was just like whatever was left was thrown into a tub. But it wasn't anything that was worth a lot. It was a lot of the plastic, like cross stitch things where people would make like tissue covers and frames, picture frames and stuff like that. It was a lot of that, which isn't really worth anything. There was no flosses, no threads. There was no fabrics that I could lot together, no pattern books, none of that. And that's all that I've gotten relatively good at before. When I go to church rummage sales, I'll usually go straight to like the craft section, because a lot of the elderly women that, I'm stereotyping here, the elderly women that were previously crafters probably passed away. Their family doesn't want to mess with it. They don't understand what it's worth. And I can usually get that stuff fairly cheap, where with the clothes and stuff, it's still expensive. I don't go anywhere near the dishes in China. Again, I just don't want to ship that. I can ship vintage embroidery floss in a bag, and the USPS person could drop kick it down the street and it would still show up fine. Where I have to worry about with the damaging of goods, and I really don't want to mess with damaging all of the goods. So again, here's another quilt topper she had. It was very similar to the previous one, but it's just, they're all too damaged. They weren't stored properly. And honestly, the person that stored them probably had no, they weren't thinking about the resale value. They weren't thinking about how much it will sell for later, or they weren't even thinking about finishing it. They just put it away. When we got them, they were in like a cardboard banker's box. So I'm assuming that's how they were stored, in a cardboard banker's box. But they left the needles in them, and the needles caused rust because they were the old needles that rusted. The needles now tend not to rust. So vintage needles cause rust, and if they aren't taken out of the white fabric, then we have issues there. It felt bad. I don't throw anything away. I ended up donating it. And like I've said in previous videos, if it's blankets and stuff that you find an issue with, you can always donate them to your animal shelters. Blankets, towels. A lot of times when I go to the bins, I will just pick up towels and go ahead and get them because they're so cheap. And we can donate those. So I can just snatch them up and take them. Even though a lot of other people also buy towels and linens at the bins, and I don't know if they use them for other things, if they donate them, or what's going on. But with this, I'll just grab them and I can donate them. I had a bunch of vintage blankets that were wool, which was great, and I was super excited. And then I got them home and I spread them out on the table, and I found that a moth had turned them into a banquet feast. And so I ended up donating those, and they were very appreciative because they have to throw those blankets away all the time or they're just shredded. So they're always in need of blankets and towels. And that's an idea for things, when things are damaged, I try to repurpose them. A lot of times damaged things I end up wearing. And more videos from this photograph session, there are several shirts that are damaged that my husband and I and my children divvied up, and we are more than willing to wear damaged clothes, but I know someone paying money for it on eBay doesn't want it damaged, or even if it's slightly damaged, a mild discoloration, This past weekend, I just went through and I had several damaged t-shirts that I really liked, and I thought I bought them for the design on the front for the graphic. But they had like discoloring because they were hung up in a closet, and it had faded the tops of the shoulders of the shirts. So what I did is I reverse tie-dyed. So I wound them up like you would tie-dye them, and then I used bleach. So the faded parts are no longer noticeable because I used bleach on them, and I thought they turned out really good. One of them I'm planning on using for a camping t-shirt. It says "Camping Gets Me Lit," and it's reverse tie-dyed and it's really cute. And another one's like "I'm done peopling," and it's reverse tie-dyed. So I try to find things that way, reverse tie-dye them, cut them apart. Like I've said with sheets before, I'll sometimes cut them up and sell them as fabric. There are several really large pieces of fabric in this lot that I will photograph in another video, and I'll show you how I did that and how I'm going to sell them. But thank you for watching this video, and I hope you join us next time.